Welcome to the Medtech Open Office, the place to be for medtech experts. I will now introduce you to your hosts, Munir El Azouzi and Adam Isaacs Ray. Enjoy.
Welcome. I always like this thing at the end.
It's so cool. Love it. It's never going to get old. We need to update it. I'd like to have some different music. Maybe we can do different music every time.
You are the DJ of the group. So.
That's my job.
Hello everyone. So we are here at the Medtech Open Office second episode or second edition. So as you see, I put the tie and then you put everything per the image we shared, but no, I
missed it. I'm sorry. I was already in France. We were supposed, so suppose context, we were supposed to do this in person, but it kind of fell through. I didn't remember a suit. I've let Munir down.
No problem. It's fine for me. I mean, it's okay. So again, today, I mean, if you haven't seen the previous session, so it was great. There was a lot of questions, a lot of things, which was really really interesting. You can still find it again on YouTube or on LinkedIn. We have many the episodes that are there. But yeah, don't hesitate to ask us also if you don't find the link, so that we can share that with you again. So this time we are doing the same, but this time there is no happy birthday. Last week it was happy birthday for Adam. So this time no happy birthday. And we will be talking mainly about some actuality, I suppose, Adam, and then open for questions. So don't hesitate to share your questions on the comments. If you are on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or on Facebook. So we also put Facebook. I don't know if there are a lot of people on Facebook now, but we'll see. Don't hesitate, and I will try to monitor that and see that. What we have done before, we have asked people if they want to provide some question to maybe send that through email. I checked and I received just one question per email, so we will try to look at that. Otherwise, yeah, you can still send us questions per email, even now for the next session, and then we can also gather all those questions for the next session. So the question that will be sent per email will be kind of displayed or shared anonymously. So it means no company name, no people name, no whatever, just the case, and then we are answering the question. But if you want to ask your own question directly, so then you can come here. mainly, and answer the comments. And maybe in the future, I'm planning that also in future, to have people coming to the live, if I can say, and then asking their questions, discussing with us also. So this is mainly some ideas that I may have. So let's maybe start a bit here. Adam, you want to start? I think maybe you have some good news or good information maybe for people.
More just around I think a nice way to kind of warm up to the kind of the Medtech Open Office is, I think, like you were saying, Monier, this is really about trying to answer the really practical questions that are like in every QMS, medical device, kind of whatever's going on, so this is really, we're trying to kind of go by the input of industry, so we are really trying to focus on that. So I usually think we like to start this just by talking a little bit about what we've seen this week, about what's going on. We both, Monier and I, have very different lives, quite similar in the same way, but very different at the same time. I still can't believe you're wearing a suit. It's so I've never seen you.
I'm here.
Never seen you in a suit. So, but no, I think this week, I think two things that I would like to kind of discuss would be one around the AI Act. So I've seen that there's some things coming out about the AI Act. Around the delay of these for high risk devices is now appears to have been moved till September 2027. Where that leaves the medical devices for this as well, because the proposal is still not put in place. I kind of want to use this opportunity just to say to everyone, don't get too excited at the moment, because the medical device regulation is still it's a primary regulation in this sense, so that is going to be what drives the rest of it,
So maybe for people that were not following at all this story about EUA Act. So EUA Act was published. There were some medical device recommendation inside.
Yeah.
Now, what's the story now? So are we following EUA Act? Are we following MDR? Is EUA Act something that to add like a sandwich to the MDR? I mean,
So initially the AI Act would apply for medical devices because medical devices were considered as high risk systems within the Act. What then happened was the AI Act implemented responsibilities for these systems that fell into the scope of a high risk system to have a notified body, of which there was none at the time designated. So that kind of created a bit of a industry was kind of starting to panic, because as a medical device manufacturer, you have one notified body for your device and then potentially another for the AI Act. It's become very, very messy. And then with that, the proposal for the targeted evaluation came out on the 16th of December. We had a coffee in Malouz, Monier, just days after it came out, I remember. And the proposal for that was that the AI Act, the implementation and applicability of medical devices would somewhat change. The proposal wanted to change it to essentially make it that bring the medical device regulation to being the primary legislation for it. So now what's been recently kind of came out is that these are now, it's been pushed from this year to kind of next year. It was August 2026, but then now it's moving to 2027. But with that, it's still the question for me at the moment, from just having seen this little bit of news everywhere, so I'm saying really heavy caveats on don't, be very cautious of what you're taking in and what decisions you're making right now. For me, I would really caution anyone making any decisions right now. To be honest, I would really sit still and just watch the regulatory landscape develop. This is now we're kind of 1 quarter since the proposal was released. Things have changed quite a bit. Goodness knows what it's going to look like when Q2 is done. So I would be very, very cautious if I was in a medical device manufacturer that had AI forming part of my device. Which brings me to my next kind of topic that I want to discuss just briefly before, Monier, feel free to tell me to shut up whenever you want. But I done a post on LinkedIn this week around qualification versus classification of medical devices.
Qualification versus classification. Yeah, okay.
Classification. So I'm working a lot at the moment with AI devices, software medical devices, and I'm continually seeing people kind of driving towards classification without that qualification being done first, you know. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, the first is qualification, then classification, then conformity assessment. So
this is
three steps.
This is the way, you know. So I kind of put a bit of an analogy out on LinkedIn around this, because we threw a little party on Saturday night, you know. So I was in the disco mood thinking about it. So, you know, I was trying to think about this. If this was a nightclub, qualification is really, what type of experience do we want to have? Do we want to go? Do we, you know? So money off. We're sitting discussing and we're saying, okay, well, what type of music do we want? You know, do we want to go to somewhere that's really cool, or are we kind of cool, like happy with somewhere that's slightly lame, you know, kind of thing? It's like, what do we want to experience? What do we want to put out to the world? From there, once you've decided your experience that you want to have, you've picked a club, for example. Classification is the drinks that are on the bar, for example. You really have limited amount of choice that you can do then, you know, because from medical device perspective, it really depends on what your mode of action, claims, intended purpose are. So it's really, this is for software medical devices and AI medical devices. This is absolutely the most important part of the beginning of that device journey is do not confuse your qualification, classification. You do not really get to choose classification. You can choose qualification, because to take it away from being a medical device, take all of your medical claims away, take away any medical benefit that you try to administer to a patient, and make it simpler, and you remove all the medical things, and then it becomes something else totally, and it's not down that route. But if you want all of those claims, if you want all those clinical benefits, you kind of don't have a choice when it comes to classification. So I really just see this as something that I'm seeing a lot of startups in particular having a lot of difficulty with, because they come along and everyone wants to be a class 1, but EU MDR, it's really not it's not like that anymore now.
I mean, usually I have those kind of discussion with the customers that are asking, what is the classification class of my product? So I say, then we ask question, what is your product doing, etc., etc. And at the end we arrive to class 2A or class 2B, etc. I say, how can we make it class 1? And it's like, okay, drop this function, drop this, and then you can maybe make it class. It's like that. I can choose, because before you said you cannot choose your classification. I mean, you can choose if you just drop some functionality of your device. That you can choose.
Just change everything about you say about it. Change the mode of action potentially. Because that drives it as well. And your device will look completely different by the time it's done. And that's also from a cultural side of things. I think it's important in the medical device industry that we all are open to our device changing through the design control journey, because we start with an intended purpose and some user needs. A good friend of mine always said to me, no user needs no medical device. I love that phrase. But that is when a design control system is supposed to evolve the device, and we should be open to that device changing as things move with it, so and being able to try and substantiate what we're looking at, So I thought those were two interesting things that I thought we could kind of start off with, Munir, just to get kind of everything warmed up. So these are the kind of my main life things this week.
And you see maybe the comments from Astrid Many saying that internet just define the classification. So Many, it's the point is that how can I classify first? I have to understand how it's working. So how it's working, because from the classification, as for people that don't know mainly, so you have to go through a list of rules and find the rule that is matching really your device, which is different from the US, where the US is more like finding the product code, which means then defines the classification, and the product code can change. I mean, the classification can change within product code over time, because a product that is getting more and more safer, if I can say, can maybe reduce its classification, etc. So each year FDA is updating their classification also, so which is not the case for Europe. As long as you are within one rule, so you are maybe staying there.
I would also, just on that, Munir, what I'd like to just add to people is around specifically in the UK at the moment, because the UK is in this really interesting part of kind of the regulatory development, because they kind of have UK MDR, which is kind of still MDD. The MedDev the MDD's repealed, but the MedDev is still there.
Exactly.
So it's kind of weird. It's kind of awkward. But the you know, I would really say to the software and AI devices in the UK, of which there's a lot coming out of the UK. You know, I'm really proud to see what's going on in the UK. There's lots of devices coming out, so there's lots of this dilemma between Class 1 and Class 2A. But with that, I would really recommend the MedDev classification document as a way to kind of almost like boiler test your classification rationale, you know, because a lot of people, they look at the primary legislation, they just look at the rules, and then they kind of think, oh, well, it says Class 1, but you know, the notified body side of things is really, they then look at the MedDev, and you need to explain your rationale for classification in line with the MedDev, you know, and the MDCG documents if we're in the EU, you know. So I'd really say these guidance documents, particularly the MedDev, it's really old now, but it's still a really useful document, and it's still there. And at the moment, the UK, the pre-market legislation is still not released. The timeline, not sure at the moment. I believe it was kind of pushed a little bit from last year. So, you know, I'd really just say stick to looking at these MedDev documents if you're in the UK to substantiate your class when you're there.
Yeah, and we have another comment that I like also. Then you have to get marketing to agree on the reduction.
Yes.
I mean, this is a funny thing, because sometimes, I mean, it was at the beginning. I think now it's better, but at the beginning when we moved from MDD to MDR, so we had all customers that are coming to say, "Oh, can you help us to make this move, etc." The transition, and when they are showing the products, it was like a website with 20 claims that were things that I ask always the question: Do you have some backup literature or proof or clinical data about those claims? And the answer was always, no, we don't have anything. But we are selling that since 20 years. They say, yeah, but it's not a claim that or justification that I said that since 20 years, so it's fine. It's approved. No, it's not working like that. So we always have those kind of situations where we have to convince other departments of how this is working. So, and then they come to us and say, oh, I'm blocked because of quality, or I'm blocked because of regulatory affairs, because they don't want me to do this, they don't want me to do that. And so, I mean, sometimes it's a crazy situation also here.
Yeah, I would add on that to, you know, LinkedIn user, whoever you are. Thank you for the point. I think it's a really, really valid point. That's where I have really noticed a shift with the regulatory function becoming a much more strategic partner, you know, kind of regulatory in the boardroom. You know, I know Sandra Ferretti kind of says this regularly, you know, regulatory in the boardroom, you know, kind of thing. And that's where that relationship between marketing, regulatory, engineering becomes really, 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 really important to be able to, you know, put the right claims out there, because now MDR Article 7, you can be held to claims in a really, you know, and they are assessed to claims, you know, very, very tightly in when you do technical file submissions. And also, if you're a Class 1, it's still a medical device. You still have to register with your competent authority. They can still assess you to these claims as well, you know. So the Class 1 is really not a get out of jail free card, you know, in that sense. It's still, you know, the reputational damage of, if you're detected as kind of masquerading as a Class 1 when you should really be a Class 2A, the reputational damage for that would be huge, you know. So I think that's really just something to be very mindful of.
As you mentioned, the authorities can audit you, so or inspect. It's not audit, it's inspect. The authorities can still inspect you and then verify that you are clear about that. Yeah, because it's right that I see also some companies say, "Oh, we are Class 1, so it's fine. There is no need of a notified body, so we can do what we want." Say, yeah, you can do what you want until you get the door knocking with the authority asking, "Can we enter, please?" Ask you some questions here. And this is something that can be a bit difficult also.
Yeah, absolutely. So shall we move on to some questions that we have from people?
So let me open this. I mean, there was a question I received.
Cool. I've got some, I also have some money that I can share with
so
you.
let's go with those ones. I mean, I will ask you this one because at the beginning I was like, I'm not really an expert on this, but I looked for it and I said, oh yeah, I understand now. So we have what we call the So the question is, I mean, let me read it. So, dear Munir, I'm a big fan of your channel. Thank you for your content. My question is about PPWR. So, do you know what is PPWR?
Packaging
is
the packaging regulation for the EU. Yeah.
Exactly. Which requirements does the manufacturer in EU have before the August 2026? In which database the packaging have to be registered? So this is not specific to medical devices. Again, this is every product, I think, in the EU that has to follow those packaging and packaging wasting regulation. And yes, there is a deadline by August 2026. But do you have more detail about this PPWR, Adam? Or you are searching now on Google.
No. So the application of this is it does mention medical devices in the PPR. So the PPWR.
It does? Okay, I didn't saw that. Okay.
It does, yeah. It does. So you are correct, Omnia.
No, I saw that it says. I remember. I saw that. If the packaging is necessary for, there are some requirements in case of emergency or due to some health situations, etc.
Yeah. So basically this is where the EU is in a really interesting position at the moment, because there are really, really heavy environmental drives in the EU, to reduce waste. The Green Claims Directive has become very, very quiet. That is almost, I think that's not, I don't even think that's going anywhere at the moment, the Green Claims Directive at the moment, but so the packaging, the PPWR regulation essentially is it's applicable to anything, any product. It's a product legislation. It does not, if you read it, it's worth having a look at it. Just do a search for medical devices. It is not applicable to medical devices packaging that touches medical devices that are dependent on contact duration. So, i.e., sterile devices, basically, as a perfect example of this. Yeah. So these are the types of elements that that wouldn't be as applicable. But if you have a general medical device that really doesn't depend on any kind of specific packaging, to protect the intent, to enable that device to continue to meet its intended purpose, then it kind of begins to slightly move out the scope of it. So the regulation is very, very good. It's very, very clear on the scope of it, and it's very specific on contacting type of medical devices. So I would say that is the boundary of it. And then again with the Green Claims Directive, what that was looking at, I was aware last year, it went very, very quiet. And with that, again, that will have that similar type of thing, So I think we are this is very high level, right? But we are approaching a bit of an inflection point as a society where there is such political pressure to make changes and be more environmental, but then there's also the public safety side of things where you cannot compromise public safety of medical devices. So these things are really, and this is kind of the AI Act as well. These horizontal legislation add real complexity to the way that medical device manufacturers develop their devices. So I think it's amazing that person is thinking about this. It's really good.
One part of the question is also about database. So I searched, but I don't think there is any database actually for that. But I find that there are some databases locally in each country where you have medical. So here it's strange. It's like a EU regulation, but that it's member state that have to kind of enforce it, while it's not really checked by the EU by EU itself. But the question I had when I looked at that, I said yes, but interesting. Will a notified body then check also that to verify? My answer is no. Normally, they should not check specifically the packaging regulation, but they will check the packaging anyway. So for the medical device itself, but I don't think they will certify you that yes, you are compliant to the PPWR regulation, but they have to verify per the requirements of the packaging for medical devices that the packaging is compliant and everything. So it's not like I don't even know if there is a notified body that is checking all things, but what I saw is that it's really the authorities that have to verify that you are applying the law. Otherwise, there will be some fine as usual and everything.
Yeah. It'll be I've kind of had a few instances with medical devices where the manufacturers have not been extremely forthright in the way that they manage waste. And the way I had some of my experience with this was really local authorities. And you know, in member states, I had experiences where we would be inspected by a local authority they were really not interested in the medical device, really not interested in the medical device, but they were interested in the packaging, and they were interested in what do we declare for the packaging, how do we deal with it, where is it coming from, in that sense. And it was a local authority, is that in that sense, within a member state. So I have not had any experience of a notified body like actually bringing out the regulation and trying to inspect against it. It would be something that they would look at on your DOC. Certainly, they would say, okay, are you considering all applicable regulatory requirements, as part of your 1345 system, etc. But I do not imagine that a notified body would do bring that regulation up. NDR is big enough for them. They have enough to get through in that small amount of time they're on site. So yeah, I think
imagine a regulatory geek that within medical notified bodies that say, oh, what about this legislation? And everybody is looking in the room and say, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and so basically you're talking about me. So,
exactly.
But yeah, I would say that is it's really dependent on the device. The database, I'm not really sure. The legislation does refer to a database, but I'm not sure what the status of that is.
I checked and there is nothing available. So unless maybe it will be available at the moment of it's like it reminds me like Udamed. They promised us it will be available at a certain time, and then a few years after, nothing was still available. So
it's coming now, May. It's coming now.
Yeah, it's coming now. I mean, we'll see. Maybe there will still be some postponement. But, I don't know.
Hopefully not. But yeah, no, it's a really, really interesting question. But yeah, not had that come up in technical file reviews or anything like that, mostly. But I think it will be, like I was saying about the society thing, I think it will be, but I think I can see in the future, maybe not the near future money, but I think there is going to be a stage where notified bodies may have to begin looking at these things, because we're going to get to a point where the societal pressure to be more environmentally conscious is going to reach that point where we're going to start thinking about devices and all the waste produced, and they're going to look at it and say, well, the notified body's going in there anyway, so they should they should be considering that, because it's relevant of the life cycle of the device. It's part of the life cycle. It's like that's kind of and I think that life cycle is going to become bigger.
I think you should never work at the European Commission or this kind of thing. Otherwise, we are dead with you.
Not at all. I'm balanced. I'm balanced, but I just in the last few years, I've just really tried to. I've become very aware of how important it is to think about what type of society do we want to live in as a regulatory professional. I think especially with AI, it's coming into medical devices, and it does ask that question on what type of society do we want, and it's a very big question, so
it's a philosophical question. Yeah,
very philosophical. But it's really important, and I would say I would really credit Dr. Stephen Gilbert at Dresden University. If anyone likes these philosophical topics on that type of stuff, he is really a really amazing mind, in particular for regulatory science with AI.
And I mean, just jumping also to the actuality with the war actually in Iran. So with the shortage of oil, oil is needed for making plastic also. So I think this can be good. I mean, is it good or not that we don't have oil, so we don't have plastic? So we have to rethink our packaging, because without that we cannot pack our product, etc. So there are also some ideas like that.
Yeah, that's it. It's I think it's a very interesting topic. It's really cool.
So you have some other questions on your list?
Yes.
Just maybe for people, if you want, you can just drop your questions also, and we'll show them live, and then we can try to answer to them. Hoping it's not too difficult for us, for small brands.
Yes, I really hope it's not. So let me dig out this question here that I had. It was really quite interesting. Okay.
By the way, I put here somewhere here the QR code for the WhatsApp group. So there is also a WhatsApp group where we are having people asking questions. It's not, I mean, I'm there, but I'm not answering all the questions. So mainly we have a lot of people talking together about do you have a solution for this, for that. So the group is divided on multiple subgroups. A group for EU, a group for Middle East, a group for Asia Pacific, a group for whatever. I mean, there is a multiple group. So you have to join. I have to still moderate the groups because we saw a lot of deviations with people starting to put their company catalog of products so that we should purchase. So it's a quality and regulatory group. It's not a sales marketing group or whatever. So I'm trying to still try to moderate a bit so that it's not annoying all the people. So don't hesitate to come, and we'll try to allow people to enter as soon as possible. So just scan the QR code on with your phone, and you will normally have the possibility to get inside and participate to the different discussions we have.
Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, I respect the hustle of anyone, like that. Kidding on.
No, but at the beginning I had made it open, so it was really open. Everybody can enter, etc. And then I saw the crazy thing that they were going there. So okay, let's stop it. Otherwise, everybody will leave because nobody will be interested by being spammed every minute by some catalog or some product or some whatever.
Yeah, of course. No, so I got the kind of point. So this is kind of, again, I'm really working on like a lot of software devices and AI devices at the moment. And obviously last time we done the first Medtech Open Office, Munir, was when the Apple Store made that, the App Store made that announcement to say, are you a medical device or not? If you tick yes, this will be displayed. So I'm really in deep on software devices and AI devices at the moment. And one thing that came up for me, which again, maybe a bit philosophical, but I think from an ISO 14971 perspective is very interesting, was, are disclaimers or clinicians adequate risk controls?
Can you repeat our disclaimers? What?
So, when you have a disclaimer to say this is not a medical device, or if you say this is not intended to provide, diagnosis or anything like that. All of this should be verified by a clinician, etc., etc. So the question that I received is that okay to put in my risk management file?
To put my risk management?
Is it okay for me to, list about
to put the risk management file inside? Oh, yeah.
So my kind of view on this was, and I think there's two sides of this. It's quite interesting because when you speak to regulatory professionals, they have one view, but when you actually speak to clinicians have a very, very different view, which I get in that they're both on the same wavelength. But from my view as a regulatory professional, ISO 14971, the primary method to reduce risk and risk control is by design. First of all,
you have the three. You have the by design. Yeah, exactly.
Design, manufacture, information. Information's last. But with software, it's creating a bit of a unique way of managing that risk, because the way you would primarily design in a risk control to software would be through requirements. You would create requirements that would be linked. So for me, it is really not an adequate risk control to say, this is not a medical device, or yes, this is a medical device, but don't worry, the output will be verified by a user, kind of thing. And when you speak to clinicians about this, clinicians, I think if we remove the context of it being a medical device, a software device, if we think of it as a scalpel, really simple scalpel, the clinician expects that to work straight away. They open it, they expect it to work. You know, they don't expect to have to check the way it's cut and all of that. You know, they open it. It should work first time. That should be it. They shouldn't think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be thrown around on the.
It'll be thrown, and then you're gonna if you're doing incisions, then what kind of thing are you gonna do? How are they gonna verify that? So I found this really interesting when I spoke to some colleagues and friends of mine that are clinicians, and they all were very, very strongly against being used as like a risk control, in that sense. And a lot of people were kind of informing me that, even if that device says this, it's still a medical device, but, not to be used by a clinician for clinical decision making and all that stuff. Clinicians, the view that I've kind of really seen in the last kind of little while on this is that they are not happy about their license, their professional license, hinging off the back of risk controls that manufacturers are using them for, kind of thing. So I think it's this really, really interesting development that I think we're seeing now, and I think it's going to be similar to that qualification and classification element, Munir. I think this is something that's going to be, it's not going to go anywhere. This disclaimer, item MHRA a few years ago now, when there was we in the UK, we just call it the baby monitor case, where there was baby monitors, and there was an issue with a few cot deaths, and it was the MHRA put out a document, and they put down a really firm stance saying around disclaimers that you can put disclaimers as much as you want, saying it's not a medical device, but that doesn't change it from being a medical.
Yeah, it's not because you say it's not a medical device, it's not a medical device. So yeah, because I see a lot of people also saying, oh, let me put a disclaimer so that I'm not, for example, when we talk about software that are Rule 11 on EU MDR. Oh, can I put a disclaimer so that we always need a doctor for reviewing it, so it's not a class 2A or 2B, etc. So there are a lot of ideas, if I can say, of using disclaimers to reduce risk or to change classification or to change the fact it's a medical device. And no, it's not a medical device because you still need a doctor for checking the patient, etc.
Yeah. So my kind of advice on this would be for manufacturers, particularly of software and AI devices, would be, in your risk management file, that your primary way of reducing that risk is through your requirements and designing your requirements and as a result of your hazard analysis. So, and the hazard analysis is, I could spend a whole episode just talking around hazard analysis.
We spent a whole 6 months with some customers just to make them, so it's like a nightmare.
Yeah. But that's like, that's the first part of it is really your hazard analysis, but your primary way to reduce your risk control, to reduce your risk and your risk control, is going to be design, and that for software and AI devices is going to be in the form of requirements. So again, it's really just something that's came up. It's came up for me quite a lot recently on this, and I just think it's something really that I find really interesting, and that's worth sharing and saying, don't. You can put information for safety. If you consider a disclaimer to be information for safety, that's fine, but it cannot be used as a primary risk control, as the main thing, within your risk management file. So yeah, that was a kind of another little question on here that I thought it's a really interesting one as well. What do you think?
Great.
Yeah. Cool.
I have a question that I just picked, as I said, from the WhatsApp group.
Cool.
I will not say the name and everything, but if you are there, you see that. So just to see what you would answer yourself, because it's something that is really happening a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, let's see that. I'm not really understanding the context, but yeah, the idea is like that. Hi, can anyone clarify to me if a company is based in the EU, only in the business of buying and exporting medical devices, nothing sold in EU? So is this company a distributor requiring registration in EU as well? So mainly, I suppose, registration as medical device distributor or something like that. So what would you answer to them? I mean, here they are more importing and I don't know, when they say buying, is it buying from external or buying from internal of Europe? And exporting is, suppose, it's outside of Europe also. So what do you say about that? What is the status of this company?
So this is really where that definition of placing on the market comes into things for me. So if they're buying medical devices, I mean, with limited information, I mean, first of
Yeah,
all,
it's a bit difficult. Me too. When I read it, I missed maybe some few details to be
that's okay.
accurate.
But with some caveats on it, I can answer it. So yeah, I'd say if they're not intended to go onto the EU market, then you're never going to place them on the, they're technically never going to be placed on the market from a true regulatory perspective, because there's regulatory importers and there's regulatory distribution, and then there's obviously actual physical distribution. And this is something that we see. I don't see it as much now, but I really seen it a few years ago before Regulation 2023/607 was entered into force, because everyone was kind of panicking about MDR. But I would say in that case, I do not think that, unless they're sending it out to a market that accepts MDR, like, because it's going to have a CE mark on it potentially.
Yeah.
Again, don't know. But if it's not going on to the European market, then I would not say that it applies.
For me, it's more about where are they buying those products.
Yeah.
Because if you are buying it from inside of the European Union, you are a distributor, because you purchase it. Let's say, for example, you are a company in France, you are located in Germany, you purchase a product from France, so it stays inside the European Union, so you are a distributor, so there is nothing there. So, and maybe if you want to sell that outside of Europe, so then, I mean, it's not changing anything, because then it goes outside of Europe. In that case, distributor, there is no registration in UDAMED. There is no, I mean, there is no kind of need to mention that you are doing that. I suppose, yes, you have to register your company anyway. So, but it's just about UDAMED, maybe for the announcing that I am a distributor of medical devices. I don't think there is any need, because UDAMED don't require that. But if you are purchasing from outside of the European Union, inside to the European Union, then you are having the problem now. Have you placed the device on the market, or is it still, where is it going exactly also? Is it going inside the European Union or outside of the European Union? So this is mainly the details that are missing so that we can say, yes, this company has to register or no. Because if it's coming from outside the European Union and you receive it and then you send it outside of the European Union, so then it's never touches, if I can say, the European Union customers. So it's never placed on the market, as you mentioned. But if it's received from outside of the European Union and then sold inside the European Union, then it's placed on the market for the first time inside the European Union by you. Then yes, it's there. So, but here it says no registration in Europe, no sold in Europe. So I suppose maybe it's the case of outside. So then.
So MD, I was just, while you were saying that, Monia, I remember this. I remember reading something about this in an MDCG document. So MDCG 2021-27 Rev 1 has an example that is exactly this. So so entity, the example that they specify in here is. This is maybe a bit complicated to try and explain, but entity X physically brings medical devices manufactured in a third country, i.e. outside of the European Union, into the Union. However, the devices are not placed on the Union market, they're only in transit, and they are supplied directly onto a third country distributor. A legal transfer of ownership has taken place between entity X and entity Y, the distributor. Entity Y supplies the devices onto a distributor in the EU, entity Z, and the devices are placed on the market for the first time. So they've basically said it gets brought in, it goes back out, and it gets brought back in, is essentially what they're kind of saying. So yeah, they're saying here that entity X, despite bringing devices into the Union, never placed them on the market. So they are not acting as an importer. So consistent to what you and I are saying. Instead, entity Z, who is bringing it back in, would undertake the roles of that importer.
Exactly, I have an interesting point here provided by David. So mainly, what about post-marketing chain or surveillance, or I don't know? I suppose the post-marketing is not on the duty of the distributor, but they is still involved to provide data to the manufacturer if they have an agreement. This is also the problem. It's a big problem that also. We are expecting distributor to provide us some information. They have to keep traceability for sure.
Yeah.
Now, as I had a lot of customers doing that, because I asked them, can you ask, because we have some customers, let's say, for example, the customer is in the US, he's selling devices through a distributor, like we did, for example, in the Netherlands. And then when we are dealing with this customer in the US, we ask them, he asked us, can we update our clinical evaluation or post-marketing clinical follow-up or this and that? And we say, can you provide us some data? And he says, I am just selling to a distributor. I don't see what's happening after the distributor. So it means that there is no agreement to collect data through distributor for that, which can be also a bit of a nightmare. So I'm not sure that, if I can say, post-market surveillance it's not a duty from the distributor, but they have the duty to keep traceability for the information to send that to the manufacturer in case of recall or this kind of thing. But there are still some post-market. Maybe it's that post-market chain, which means more like traceability than post-market surveillance with clinical data and this kind of thing. So yes, there is still this. I have to check if on the EUMDR article 14 or 15 for distributor, is there something about traceability? I think yes, because all the actors have that, but there should be this traceability that is maintained all along the full supply chain, so that mainly people can know exactly where are coming those products, where are those products in case we have to make a recall.
Yeah, so they need to maintain a register of the distributors need to maintain a register of complaints of non-conforming devices, as well as, you know, kind of like anything else like that. But then also it's that side of things where it really depends on what that particular, you know, there's the regulatory side of things. You know, I think David's a good guy from NSAI, is great. He, you know, is correct in that post-market chain, as in, you know, it depends on that particular agreement as well that you have with that, whoever that is as well, you know, because there's going to be elements there that are going to be very specific to that. But yeah, I'd say the distributor in this sense, or the importer, whoever it is, you know, they ultimately will always have a bit of a role to play if it's going on the EU market, you know, like David said, you know, essentially you might not be a distributor. So I think that's where those sides of things, for having clarity on these roles of regulatory importers, physical importers, is really important, because people tend to combine them all into one thing, and it can become pretty messy when that happens, you know. And the industry's kind of calmed down a little bit about this now, but I remember like 3 years ago, this was a really, really hot topic, you know, because there was all these goods flown about and everyone was thinking, what are we doing here, you know? So yeah, I think it's a really, really cool question, but I would say it's very clearly answered in MDCG 2021-27.
Great. You had a question again from your side?
Yeah. Let me get one.
We'll try to find again a new one from the group.
Yeah, if you like, yeah, that's cool. If it's in the WhatsApp chat, then that's really cool. So, hi Vladimir as well from Brazil. Goodness, I bet it's nicer than Scotland.
Hey, from
Brazil. I bet the weather's way nicer than Scotland.
You have a bad weather in Scotland?
Oh, man, it's like
you have always a bad weather in Scotland.
Like, you know, we have some nice weather, you know, like so that's pretty much it. But it leaves very quickly, you know, so it leaves really quickly. Okay.
Find it?
Yeah, 2 seconds. I'm just going to bring it up properly. Is there anything in the WhatsApp chat that you can see, Munir, that's kind of a bit more, that maybe that's just really relevant from, if it's in the WhatsApp chat, I think it might be more for the community, maybe more. Is there anything there that you see?
Checking for the... well, we have some demand for some markets, like US.
Okay.
We have... Okay, so we have a question here for QMSR.
Okay. Ooh.
Are you aware of QMSR?
Yeah. Yep. Yep, we can. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so I read that quickly.
I can try.
Hi everyone. So I'd appreciate your expert input on a point we are currently evaluating regarding the transition to FDA QMSR effective February 2026. It was an old question.
Okay.
For a company that has recently undergone a successful ISO 13485 2016 audit covering both hardware and SAMD, how would you assess the level of additional effort required to achieve true QMSR inspection readiness? Specifically, do you consider ISO 13485 compliance largely sufficient in practice, or are you seeing notable gaps during FDA inspection, complaint handling, risk integration, responsibility mapping, despite ISO certification? How are you prioritizing QMSR transition versus MDR timelines, particularly for legacy products? Would really value insight from those who have already gone through or are preparing for FDA inspection under QMSR. So the question was on the, let me check if it's the right, yeah. No, I don't know, it was 2nd of April, yeah, 2nd of April 2026.
Well, the question was asked on the 2nd of February when it went live.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's no, just checking because I have the dates, the US dates and the European dates. So here it's written 4/2/2026, but the real date is 2 April 2026. Okay.
Okay.
So,
cool.
So what would you say about that?
Okay. So yeah, QMSR. The way I look at this is, it's kind of cool to look at QMSR and think what's changed, right? And think what's changed. If we invert it, if we think what's not changed, 510Ks still apply. You must still have design, we call it design and development planning, in the QMSR QSR, it was called design control. The big change that has happened now with QMSR is that FDA will be able to inspect more in your quality system. So they can look deeper into CAPAs, they can look deeper into management review, these elements that weren't quite as explicit in QSR. That is the real difference. And the other difference is the FDA are a regulatory agency. So they can show up to your site for as long as they want. ISO 13485 audits, we have calculators when we do these audits that you spend a certain amount of time depending on your employees, how many people you have, etc. FDA can show up to your site and they can inspect your ISO 13485 system for as long as they feel like they need to demonstrate and satisfy themselves to the requirements. So there will have not been many audits done to the QMSR now because it's only been 2 months since it's been in place. It will be coming. The auditors, there was a lot of people saying, no, there's going to be lots of retraining required, but these auditors in the FDA are excellent. I was taught to audit by an FDA auditor, they are really excellent. So I'd say the main things, if you have ISO 13485, do not rely on your certificate because they do not care. They will not care. You can show them that, and they'll say, that's lovely. I like the color of the frame. Thank you. Now show me your management review. So I'd say,
it's a good point because when you say show me your management review, I mean, when I was audited by FDA before with QSR, it was like blackouts or your management review. Just show that it's existing, but don't show the content specifically. And internal audit, the same. Show that you have an internal audit report, but you have to all these blackout. I can't remember
QSIT, it was the quality system inspection technique.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have all those things that you have to not show to them, which was different from when we have an auditor from a notified body where you have to show everything and you cannot hide anything to them. But now it changed. Now you have to show to them everything also. So it's what I'm saying. When you said the management review, I say, to be a clean one, there is no blackout, nothing. So
this is the big difference, Monia, is that the 13485 link to QMSR creates a little bit of danger for manufacturers because a lot of people will presume conformity to QMSR.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, It's still a different market. It's a regulation. It's not a standard. ISO 13485 is a standard. It is not a regulation, so you still have to go all the way for that regulation, in that sense, and make sure that it's declared conformity to the regulation, not 13485, but then, they can go much deeper now into what they're assessing. So I'd say for that, QSIP was great. I done an audit recently with an FDA inspector, and we in the opening meeting, it was funny because he was like, kind of like proper FDA, like ex-FDA, and we started the opening meeting, and I was like, he kind of let me lead it, and and it was nice of him. So I was saying, I'm auditing for conformity, not non-conformity, etc. And he's done his bit, and he said, I'm auditing for non-conformity. And it's the different approach, so the complexity that QMSR brings now is that they can look deeper, they can stay as long as they want because they're a regulatory agency, they have lots of authority, and the culture is that they look for non-conformance.
So it's the difference between inspection and audit. So you have to, inspection is really, like we say, we look for non-conformity, but audit, we look for conformity with the proof that you are following what you are saying mainly.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything else in that question, Munir, that we didn't answer there?
I just saw some answers from some people that says mainly that there is a standard, but it's an old one because it was in 2019, the AMI Tier 102, which is making a comparison between QMSR and ISO 13485, but just somebody after says, no, it's not QMSR, it's QSR, because in 2019 QMSR was not existing, so they cannot make that. But there is mainly these kind of things. So for people that want to also go to the group and see the questions and then answer also or help, this is a good place to go.
Yeah. Good question.
A new question just arrived now, so let's read it together. It's UMDR this time.
Okay, let's go for it.
Hello, from a regulatory perspective, how do you see the current framework applying to AI systems based on large language models used in clinical contexts, especially when they are not designed for a single specific pathology but can cover multiple conditions? Interesting questions, because I have recorded a podcast with Scarlett, a notified body, specifically on large language model. So we talked about those kind of things, also about the fact, mainly how they audit that, how they certify this kind of thing. So maybe for this person to just go to, it will be published beginning of May, I think, because we have few episodes already available. But we have already recorded that with Scarlett. So what would you answer to that for AI that can answer any pathology or anything that's a because I think it was one question I asked Sandy from Scarlett. It's about the fact that normally when you do a clinical evaluation, you have some claims. My device is for that pathology, for that treatment, etc., and I have to put it. So here it's like, how can we do that with the LLM that you can ask any question and can provide any answer also?
Yeah, so MHRA have released some really good documents on this recently from the AI airlock, which is I would really recommend worth checking out. So large language models are they are kind of as complicated as it gets at the moment. So kind of bit of an emerging space at the moment. I know that if it's a large language model, it depends on what kind of large language model you're using. If it's kind of essentially ChatGPT, it's really not, you're going to have a really hard time controlling any of that because it's open to the internet, and you generally that will not fly.
Because it's searching internet a lot of things. So if garbage in, garbage out, it's in the internet, it's garbage, so it's mainly providing the wrong information.
Exactly. So, and then I'm just reading this question more. So, how do we see the current framework applying to AI systems used in clinical context? Yeah. So again, it depends on. I'd say I'm going to be this regulatory person, but it really depends on. It really does depend on your intended purpose. Because a lot of these AI devices are actually clinical decision support tools. that are not technically medical devices. So back to the beginning of the podcast around qualification versus classification, I'd say that's when it really I would look less at the large language model side of things, and I would look more at the intended purpose. So if this person who asked this question would like to give us an intended purpose, and covering multiple conditions is fine as well within AI systems to do that. But again, you would need to have a performance matrix that shows that you're able to prove that the data that device is trained upon is suitable for the intended use and the clinical indications and target populations that you're indicating for. So I would say, yeah, it's like the summary would be, depends who you're connecting it to. If it's ChatGPT, I'd say be careful, really not gonna fly. But I think this is going to be a really emerging space in the next few months in particular, especially in the UK, because we're at a stage in the UK where we don't have the MDR, so we're kind of we're at a bit of a strange point where we're trying to manage this.
So in terms of AI, I think we are at a stage where now it's why we had those episodes with also Scarlett, at a stage where now it was the jungle before, if I can say,
yes,
wild west.
Yes,
and now we are arriving at the point where people are saying, oh, I need regulation, or I need guidance, or I need, tell me, please, because I'm lost here, what should I do? And I think also notified bodies can be also in this situation. But yeah, it's why I'm always saying, when there is a new technology, let it live, let it work for a certain time, and then you will see here where are some abuse, if I can say, or something that maybe are not going well, and then it's the moment to say, let's stop, guys, and let's come back to a meeting point, and then let's agree again on what are the rules, because now it's going a bit too far for some of those things. So
and I'd just say on the last bit, just before we finish up on that, again, if there's multiple clinical conditions to be used there, then that's where PCCPs, predetermined change control plans, become really important, because you can use them with internally. If you don't have a notified body because it's not on the market yet, you can use these to develop the roadmap to increase your indications for the device, to include more clinical indications as you go. It might be quite hard to serve multiple at the beginning, especially if you're resource limited or data limited in terms of the data you can train your model on, or if you're limited in terms of the clinical condition that your data or your intended purpose can serve, and that transferability. So I'd say PMS, PCCPs, really important for AI devices.
And it's a point, because we talked about PCCP also. Again, PCCP is more a US term, because we have a US guidance, but we talked about that with Scarlett, because apparently, from what I heard, it's the only one for the moment that are accepting PCCP. So yeah, let's see what the other notified bodies will say about that. Maybe some will come and say, no, we also accept it, and everybody will say us to accept it. So let's see.
No, it's very interesting. So yeah.
Okay, so we arrive at the end of this Medtech Open Office. So thanks for the one that joined to us and sent us some question. Again, if you want, you can participate to this WhatsApp group where we are gathering a lot of questions and people will answer. And maybe we'll pick some questions also from there to try to answer. But there are always some great discussion and some great experts that are coming and providing some insights, some guidance, some advice also on how to do certain things. So don't hesitate to go there. Just give me some time to approve your entry to it, but don't hesitate. No, anything else from your side, Adam?
No. I think that's I think let's keep this moving. This is
how is France? It's okay.
France is great. The weather's nice. The food's good. The wine's good. Like the culture is brilliant. So yeah, it's just that I'm just really gutted. I'm gutted we didn't get to meet up to do this in person. I'm really gutted about that. So
it's fine. The next time, I hope.
The center of medical devices, Malouse.
Yeah, sure, exactly. We have to make our offices there directly.
so no, that was really
good. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for this. And again, there will be a replay on YouTube and also LinkedIn. So don't hesitate to go there and check that. And also share that with all your colleagues. And again, we are not committing to a frequency for this kind of events. but we'll try to do it as soon as possible also, because I think we like our discussion also, and seeing all those things. So don't hesitate also to share that with your colleagues, that we have those kind of events. And if they want, they can always send us a question so for the moment we put the email of Easy Medical Device, so info@easymedicaldevice.com. Just put on the title Medtech Open Office, so that we can gather the questions, and then during the next session I will provide that to you. So info@easymedicaldevice.com. Okay, Adam, it was really a pleasure. Thank you very much, and I wish you a nice day and nice trip or nice holiday in France.
Yes, merci. A bientôt. Ciao.
A bientôt.
Thanks, Maria. See you later. Ciao.